Okay, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us tonight for the Sullivan County Real Property Tax Foreclosure Auction Bidder Seminar. Typically, we have this seminar on Monday night prior to the auction, but this year, due to COVID, we're going to do this virtually, and we're going to do this a couple of weeks earlier so that you have a little bit more time to do your homework. If you have a cell phone, get your camera ready because we have quite a bit of information to share with you tonight. And unless you're able to do a screen grab and you know how to do that with your computer, you're probably going to want to just take some images of some of the slides that we're showing you. We have quite a bit of information to get through tonight, so I'm not going to waste a lot of time explaining some of those details to you. Just get your camera ready. So tonight, behind the glass, Jennifer Gableman, our president and principal broker, she's going to be working the chat side and she'll be on the back side, working in the office. My name is Frank Peterzak. I'm one of the auctioneers. I'm also an associate broker. You can follow us on a variety of social media programs from Facebook to Instagram, YouTube, etc. We have all kinds of great videos, great resources, obviously photographs and videos of things we're selling, and also some videos and things that we're not selling, but that we saw as we travel around the state. So if you have questions, you're going to want to type those down in the chat box. This presentation is going to run about an hour and 10 minutes, maybe an hour and 15 minutes. And from doing these seminars for the last 20 odd years, we already anticipated what your questions are, and we've built them into this presentation. So if you have a little patience, and you just kind of wait for us to go through it, we're going to touch on everything that pretty much you're going to want to ask. That said, we are not lawyers, so we're not here to practice law, and we're not going to try and teach you or interpret the law. We want to explain some of the steps that have happened along the way. So this seminar is going to have several parts. First, we do want to talk about Article 11. And we're going to want to talk about the foreclosure process. You understand how these properties became part of this auction. We're going to talk about due diligence. That's a word that means do your homework. And we'll teach you a little bit about how to do that. We'll give you an overview. We're going to give you some sample information that you're going to be able to look at. And then we'll also go through the registration process, show you what that looks like. We'll give you a sample auction. At the end of the auction today, we'll actually sell you something. So this auction for Sullivan County is going to take 2 days. The first day, Tuesday, October 21, beginning at 9:30 in the morning. We'll start promptly at 9:30 with brief opening announcements. We don't read the terms and conditions, but we will do a highlight of any last minute announcements you need to hear. And on day one, we're going to start with lot number 1, and we'll be selling through lot 183. There's a clean break between townships, and we'll pick up day 2 with lot 186 and go to the end. And day 2 obviously is Wednesday, October 21st, and we'll start at 9:30. So this auction has a variety of properties. There are single family homes. There are large ones, there are small ones, there are capes, there's multifamily. We also have a motel, we have vacant land, waterfront property. We always have inquiries on all these different types of properties. And in Sullivan County, we have a little bit of everything, including smaller tracts of land that you might be interested in. We also have the requisite in-law cabin. They're not going to stay long, so this might be the type of thing that you're looking for to have relatives over. So again, the auction is October 21 and 22. It should be Wednesday the 22nd. 2-day auction beginning with lot number 1. Let's jump right into Article 11. So let me just give you a quick overview of what happens, some of the procedures, and then how it leads to public auction. So if you're interested in Article 11, you're going to want to know that everybody that owns real estate in New York State, all real property owners, will pay real property tax. And the real property tax is paid to the county. What governs this is New York State real property tax law, and specifically Article 11 is the foreclosure mechanism. You can Google that on your own. Once you Google, you're going to get a link and follow the links, and you should end up here at the New York State Senate site for Article 11. And you can search through there. The law, I think, is about 38 pages or so. If you're really interested in all the detailed steps, that's where you go for that information. So in Article 11, the state has provided counties, now we're talking about county real property tax foreclosure. The state has provided counties with a way to collect or be able to monetize tax delinquent assets. The law states that the amount of outstanding taxes is 2 years before the foreclosure action can commence, or 3 years if it's agricultural property. And agricultural property is specifically designated on a tax map as ag property. So all other properties, residential, vacant land, 1 to 4 family, commercial, etc., all of those properties, a minimum of 2 years delinquency before the municipality can foreclose. Now, everybody gets a tax bill, and you get a tax bill every year, and you must pay the tax. It's pretty simple. There have been plenty of court cases testing this. People have said, hey, I didn't get my tax bill, so maybe I don't have to pay this year. No, the law is very firmly decided on the side of the county and the law that you must pay your tax bill, whether or not it comes in the mail or not. It's your responsibility to make a payment. You notice at the bottom of the sample tax bill, there's an area that says on the lower left, penalties and an ability to pay in installments. There's penalties, there are interest, but this is a very specific real property tax bill, and it also applies to school tax and village tax and any special taxes that might be assessed within that tax bill. You have to pay it. So save yourself the court fees and don't fight it. As we're heading into that 2-year window that I talked about, and by local law, counties can extend that and make it longer than 2 years, but most now are trying to follow the 2-year time frame. The counties are required to publicize this auction in a couple, one of the 2 county-wide newspapers. And you see this typically in late fall, big lists of properties in the newspaper in the legal section. And when you zoom in a little bit closer and you take a look, you're going to want to look in the legal notices. They don't publicize this in the real estate section, it's in the legal notice. And you want to see up on article that it is an Article 11 foreclosure, so that what you're learning about tonight applies to the properties that you're going to buy. You also want to see on the right side the list of properties. Usually in the fall, the list is quite huge. I don't suggest that you start doing a tremendous amount of homework at this point because this is a long way off before the auction. But it may pique your interest and you say, hey, I know that property, let me follow it. So the counties are required to do a search of the title for interested parties. Interested parties are people who either own the property, have a financial interest in the property, or some other legal way to have a lien against that property. And the way they do the search is some counties do it themselves, some outsource that to a title company. And the same way that you're going to be doing a title search, you're going to use the county clerk's office, and you're going to search the lien and records books for any judgments against that individual and their properties. The way you do it is you look at their last name, first name of the delinquent owner or owners, and you're going to make a list of all those discovered liens and judgments. And you want to verify that those individuals have been notified. And the way you do that is you go through the treasurer's office and you request an opportunity to chat with somebody about who did they serve notice for this property. Now, let's be very clear. The county's not doing the homework for you ahead of time, and it doesn't make sense for you to just call up and say, well, who'd you call? You need to know who they notified, and then you're going to verify that against your list. And why are you doing this? The law is very strong. At the end of this process, unless someone protects their lien interest in the property. And that includes maybe a bank with a mortgage, or a hospital that had a lien against the property because the bill for an operation or a hospital stay wasn't paid, or maybe a roofer had a small claims against the property and won a judgment but never collected, filed a lien. At the end of this process, all of those liens that were notified, they're given an opportunity to step forward and protect their lien. And the way they do that is by paying the taxes. Well, a bank only pays taxes if they're escrowing money for it. So that may or may not be the case. The hospital is not going to step up and pay someone's taxes. And the roofer, more than likely, is just going to write that off as a bad debt. So at the end of this process, all those lien holders are extinguished from having an interest in this property. And you're going to get the property free and clear of liens, as long as those lien holders were notified. We're going to talk about IRS liens a little bit later on in more detail. But if the IRS has a lien against this property and they have been notified, not a big deal. They're also going to be discharged by this process. So any lien holders that were notified are wiped away. Liens that may not be notified, that's why we have you double check the work of the county, they may still be in effect. That 90-day notice is the last opportunity for any of these interested parties to protect their liens. Once this process goes through all the legal steps that we're talking about in Article 11, this entire file of foreclosure goes before a judge who reviews the procedures, says that they were followed correctly because the county does a test and make statements that they followed all the necessary steps. And then the judge's order erases these recorded liens and lien holder interests with regard to the purchaser. So for you as the buyer, again, you're looking at a property that more than likely is coming to you free and clear of all liens. Now you may say, Frank, how many times is there a mistake? How many times do you see liens that are not notified? In doing this work for about 20 years, our team can say that we really haven't heard of more than a handful, maybe a little bit more onto the second hand, of liens that were not notified. You know, that's not a statement of guarantee, but we're saying to you that, you know, buyers would complain to us and tell us of any problems that they've come across. And to be honest with you, over now 40-something thousand properties we've returned to the tax roll, barely a handful or more of people have said that the process did not work. It actually does work quite well. So where can you find properties? Where can you find parcels? One is you can Google real property tax foreclosure, New York, and see what you come up with. You'll find, you know, a couple of different auction companies doing this in the state. We by far do the most work. We're working with almost 25% of the counties now across New York State. You can also find some counties that still do it themselves. You may find a particular village or small city that's doing their own. You know, I don't have information on what we don't do work with, but one place you could do is certainly go to either AARauctions.com or NYSauctions.com. And we always post information about upcoming auctions. Now this year, because of COVID, we're not doing 25% of New York State. Right now, we're going to have maybe 4 auctions that are going to be completed before the end of the year. Maybe 1 or 2 more. They're waiting on judge's orders and commitments from the judge to be able to sign the order of title and be able to go forward with us. So, you know, we have 4-wheel drive vehicles. We'll work into the snow if we have to. But right now, Sullivan and the other counties that we have listed on our website are good to go. So visit our website, and there's a host of information there for you. Just a sample brochure. In the brochure, if you were to pick one up, and we mail brochures to the treasurer's office, clerk's office. So if you are in your county government center up in Monticello, you'll be able to find the Sullivan County book, or visit any town or village hall within the county. We always mail extra books out to the towns and villages so that they have copies. The other easy way to go is go right on to NYS Auctions, and then right within the auction listing itself, you can easily download an electronic copy and have it on your desktop, keep it on your phone, print it out for yourself, what have you. So you may say, wow, there's so many properties, so many choices. You know, what do I do? Well, you could either pull your hair out, go about your homework with confidence, or maybe just be overwhelmed by the process. If you're going to be overwhelmed and not really understanding of what's going on here, then let's use this year, this first auction. If it's your first time, use this first auction as a learning process. You know, not only with tonight's webinar, but the extra resources we have on our website. There's a ton of frequently asked questions. We have video. We have a lot of information for you. Maybe review, just learn, just watch, and maybe attend this auction, you know, virtually like we're going to do it, and just watch what happens, you know. On the other hand, if you're considering really buying property, you're going to want to do some homework. And the way you do your homework is entirely up to you. There are several things that you're going to want to look at. Beginning your buyer due diligence, visit our website. We've taken the available public information and we've loaded it onto the website so that you can begin shopping from home in your pajamas. You don't have to go anywhere. We have assessor reports, we have tax maps, we have deed links that you're going to go and be able to look up deeds and download them. We can talk about liens again, and we're going to talk a little bit more about towns, schools, and villages as we get through the presentation. The assessor's reports, these are great. We call these RPS forms. These are real property service forms. It's a standardized system throughout the state of New York. The assessors enter property data and information into a statewide database, and then you're able to look at this on each municipality's website. So we've already downloaded the forms that correspond to these properties, and there's a lot of great information there. Let me zoom in on this one from Orange County. You'll notice in the top right, it talks about the actual tax map identification of this property. So you're going to want to take a look at making sure that you're looking at the correct parcel, number one. Then number two starts talking about what is this property class code. This is a class code 210, single family residence. Maybe that's of interest to you. You know, you can sort on our website in the property list, you can sort by category. So if you only want to see single family homes, or you only want to see homes that are waterfront or property waterfront, you can do those sorts. There's other good information. Look in the middle band where it says area. Talks about the living area of this home, the upstairs, the downstairs, how many bathrooms it has. There's a great amount of great information, really good information for you to begin doing your homework through the assessor's report. It's really a fantastic document. The next thing you'll want to do is figure out, you know, what does the actual parcel look like? So we've recreated actual tax map cuts so that you can look at that shape easily. But if you ever have to look up on a full sheet map, where is this property? How do you find 2-1-12? So that's the map section, all the way on the lower right, map section 2. The block is a round circled number somewhere on this map. Sometimes there are more than one map, more than one blocks. And then the actual parcel itself, you're going to have to look a little closer. So I've circled number 12 for you, and it's right there along the road. And the good thing about tax maps is they also give you additional information. So this one talks about 252.1. That's the road frontage in feet measurement. It also tells you that it's 1.2 or 1.2 acres. So it gives you a really good indication of what the property is shaped like. That being said, a tax map is not a survey map. So that a survey is an official delineation of the boundaries of the property and the directions. A tax map is a recreation, generally from deed description, using a computer program. So these are not to be used as survey maps. Another great link that's on our website and also on the county sites, if you want to go there, is just click on Google Map. I know they have a couple of different map formats for you. I like Google. for this reason. The first thing that pops up is you'll see a pin locating where that property is on the map. And you see kind of the gray background showing you the tax map parcels and what they look like. But go over to where I have satellite highlighted and click on that. Then it changes the view to the aerial image of satellite. So it shows you a little bit more topography. It shows you maybe forestation, like this property's, heavily wooded all the way around. But here's the really cool feature that I love Google Maps for. You see on the left side where the arrow is pointing, send to your phone? I use this all the time to go to property. You want to just send this to your phone, that pin. So when you click send to your phone, a box will open up, type in your cell phone number, click send, and you'll instantly get a notice that when you reopen it now on your cell phone, it'll open up Google Map, it'll ask you, do you want directions to there? And it'll tell you how long it's going to take you to get from wherever you happen to be standing right to that property. Finding homes is pretty easy. Homes generally have a street address with a number, but vacant land can be a bit tricky. When we're out looking at properties and doing signs and photos a month or so ago, and we post our sign and we take that photo of where the sign was on the property, and we're trying to post our sign like equidistant between the north and south border, so that sign is in the middle. The sign is only as good as if somebody doesn't monkey with it. So we've heard stories of where the sign was picked up and put on the other side of the road or moved down the road. So if you show up and you're relying on the sign, maybe yes, maybe no. If you sent the pin of the Google map to your phone, you'll know exactly where you're going, and it works really well. Another step that you're going to want to do is take a look at the deeds. The deeds have really good information, and you might say, well, what is that good for? First of all, you want to verify that the property, was owned by the person that you're looking at. It's kind of like you're making a linked paper trail on all these different documents of the property. So it's easy to do these things now online. You can certainly do them in person and look at these big, heavy deed books and look them up. But using the information that was on that RPS form or that assessor's form, it actually tells you the deed book number and the page number that you're going to turn to. So when you go online, it's very easy to just type those in. You're going to want to make sure somewhere on that deed you find the tax ID number and then the address of the property generally written in there. Now, if you're looking at a quitclaim deed, it may only be listing this property by tax map parcel. But there's another piece of the puzzle that is very helpful for some of you, and that's the Schedule A. Schedule A is typically a surveyed description of the property. And there's a lot of great information in here. When you start reading these at first, they just seem like mumbo jumbo. Drop down to the last line and the last sentence. That's usually what you're going to want to know. This property takes you from a point and it goes all these distances and all these different directions. But when you get down to what they call the point or place of beginning, this parcel has about 44.9 acres, more or less. So again, you want to make sure that the deed you're looking at matches the assessment information, matches the tax map in terms of the size of the parcel, so that what you think you're buying is actually what you are buying. A deed is also a good place to check for property that may not be easy to get at. And I'll give you an example later on. You may need to look for what we call a right of way or an easement. And I'm going to cover that a little bit later in this presentation. So this title search, is this something that you do yourself, or do you hire a professional to do it? You can certainly do it yourself. It takes some practice and takes some determination. But hiring a professional, so you're going to may want to use an abstractor or a title company. You can certainly start by asking your attorney who can do a title search. But generally speaking, the attorneys themselves are not going to go and do the actual research. They're going to sub it to someone else. So you may want to go to the abstract company directly, and you could Google search that pretty easily and find many companies that do that work. IRS liens. So the IRS, if they have a lien on a property, right, those are separately recorded in the county records. And when the IRS records a lien, it lasts for 10 years. So it has a 10-year life cycle beginning from the date it's filed. And then after 10 years, the IRS can actually extend it another 10 years by refiling it. So you're going to want to take a good look at the IRS lien if you find one against the property, right, against one of the delinquent taxpayers. You're going to want to look at the dates that are applicable. You also want to make sure that the county notified the IRS, because if they did, the IRS is like any other lien holder, and they're going to be removed from this property according to the foreclosure action. With a little wrinkle, the IRS, I put a note here for you, the IRS has 180 days from the date of the auction going forward to buy the property from you for exactly what you paid, including all closing costs, closing fees, commission, etc. But you're not going to be able to make a profit. So the IRS has 180 days to do that. Have we seen the IRS do that? Honestly, not to our experience. And again, we work all around New York State. So we haven't seen the IRS buying property or making you sell property to them. But here's our word of advice for you. If you buy a property with an IRS lien and you know the county notified them, then you can sleep well knowing that you can ask the IRS, the Rochester office IRS, for an unconditional lien release. And you'll get a one-page letter from them. After the auction, after you're the titled owner, that's when you contact the IRS and ask for an unconditional lien release. And that'll allow you then to do something with this property a lot sooner than the 180 days that you might have been concerned about. This particular lien that I just pulled out of the file one day, this is, tells you what kind of problem it was on the left. This was a 1040 lien, so obviously income tax. But if you go all the way to the right, the unpaid income tax, $792,000 was filed against this individual and the property that they owned. So you're going to definitely want to make sure that the county notified that the IRS, and then you're going to get a lien release from them. Just a bit on local rule. For those of you that are out of town and are looking to buy in Sullivan County, and it's a good thing that you're looking up there. It's a great place to buy real estate and invest. A lot of good things happening in Sullivan County. Remember, all property is local, right? Property is where it is, and it's subjected to local rule. So there may be town codes, but within the town, there may be additional village codes or maybe village taxes that apply. You're also going to want to look at water or sewer. Is there water or sewer bill that is outstanding? That is something that is not wiped away in this process. If there's a water bill or a sewer bill, it's going to be your responsibility once you take title, right? And then some of you are also going to be interested in the school system and want to know, what can you do with schools there? And there's a good way to do that search. So you're not quite done yet, but I am seeing some light here approaching. So again, all real estate is local. How do you determine value? What should you pay for these properties? So one of the things you want to do is compare apples to apples, right? You're going to want to compare property not only based on its location and condition and the utility of that asset, but you also want to know what other properties sold for recently that are like this one, right? So you're going to want to look at recent closed sales transactions. And you might want to consider getting an appraiser to work with you to help you determine that. You may want to work with a local real estate professional. Consider paying them to get you that information and kind of handhold you. Working with local real estate people is a great way for you as a buyer to understand a lot about the property, particularly if you're looking to do something with it. You're buying vacant land, you may want to build on it. Maybe you're buying rental property. You may want to enlist a local realtor. And, from the outset, you might not be buying anything from them, but you may want to work out some compensation with them. Can you find information about sold on your own? Sure. You can visit realtor.com, do searches for their sold transactions. I mean, everything on the left does a great job of listing for sale, but you're going to want to visit Zillow and Trulia and Redfin and MLS New York and all of these services. But look at the sold side. What has actually been paid for by a buyer, right? That ready, willing, and able buyer. And that'll still determine what values are. In terms of for sale, definitely you're going to want to look at the local newspaper. Typically it's Sunday, but all these other types of publications like Homes and Land and House of State, Harmon Homes, they always have property for sale. I always pick these things up and take a look at what people are asking for property. You know, and it's kind of funny. I pick up these magazines all over the place as I travel, and there are homes that I see year after year. You know, they're now with a new realtor, but they still haven't sold, and you know, they have a different price this year. So, hey, the great thing is maybe they'll live long enough to catch the high price they're looking for. Who knows? So when you compare property, you want to compare like kind. So are these alike? Well, in some degree, they're all structures. They might be habitable, right? They have 4 sides. They're here in New York. But how do you really make that accurate determination? Again, you're going to have to start really starting to do your homework and digging into values. Obviously, if that's important to you, and most people are thinking that way. What about acreage? When you look at our tax map cuts, you know, how big are these properties? Are these all the same? Well, unless you really know acreage size, you're guessing. Huh, surprise, right? The one on the left is 115 feet or so. The piece right to the lower right is 62 acres. They don't look vastly different. So the challenge on a tax map is scaling. And the way we reproduce our tax maps for our brochure and the website and the presentation is to give you a nice zoomed in image so you can see what the shape is. But if you're just going by that cut without paying attention to lot size, you may become disappointed. Condition is vitally important. And you're going to want to start estimating what the cost of repairs or upgrades can be. And they're going to vary. So how do you do that? How do you go about doing that? We've learned from investors who have told us some of their methods of buying property. And especially if they're not from that town and they're going to rely on local tradespeople, they look for trade supply houses. Now, I'm not talking the big box store like, you know, Lowe's or Home Depot. And obviously you can ask them, but they go to the local plumbing supply, the local electrical supply, you know, local lumber yard. And they say, hey, can you give us the name of, you know, 1, 2, 3 tradespeople that seem to be pretty reliable and do good work, and get their names and get their phone numbers. And then, you know, follow up, get written estimates, ask for insurance certificates. You know, it's very important for you to do your homework and become comfortable with your knowledge about these properties before you actually are going to put money down and buy. Remember, asking a professional advice is a great idea, but advice is not always free. So again, back to the idea of the realtor or an appraiser, you may have to pay for that service. And if it is free, free is not always the best advice. So tread caution, with caution. You also going to want to ask the hard questions first. At auction, you do all of your homework up front. The only thing we determine on auction day is what do you want to get for it? And once you're the high bidder, you're committing to a contract of sale and you're going to start marching to closing, whatever the closing date is. So you're going to want to understand some things first, particularly, you know, if you show up at a house that has caution tape on it, or you see an orange sticker or something that says violation and it's on the window or on the door. Or maybe you're even able to look through the window and you see electrical work that looks like something my one uncle used to do. And he was not an electrician, but boy, he would try. Almost burned my grandmother's house down, actually. So you're going to want to look at zoning, building code information, septic, water, sewers. There's a lot of homework that you're going to want to do prior to bidding. A quick word on zoning. So zoning is local, and it dictates how the property can be used. Can it be residential? Can it be commercial, industrial? It really needs to fit within a zone that's designated on a map. There are zoning maps in each town. And the community says this is appropriate for this area of town. This is appropriate for that area of town. And you're going to want to understand that, right? These laws can also be suspended or modified. They can even be appealed. So, you know, maybe you find out that the zoning says you need 5 acres to build a house, but you bought a piece of property that's 4.82 acres. You know, according to the zoning code, well, you're not 5 acres, but maybe you can appeal and say, hey, you know, I'm so close. I want to build a house. I want to be a taxpayer. You know, always show up with a smile and be happy. And you may find that you get great service. Building codes, on the other hand, are more specific to the improvement that's going on that property. The design, construction, alteration, and maintenance of structures all falls under building code. So there's no full national code that tells every which place, every locality where you have, how you have to build. There is a federal HUD code, which is the basic building code in the United States, but New York State not only adopts the federal code, but then has its own more stringent New York State building code. And then depending on where you are in New York State, each locality has an additional requirement. And some of them could be very different, you know, and just envision this for a minute. You know, here downstate, we don't have tremendous snowfalls anymore. And, you know, roof designs are designed to carry a certain amount of snow and ice in the winter. But let's head upstate to the snow belt area, you know, Tug Hill, where they get over 120 inches of snow every year. Certainly their building codes relative to roof support, et cetera, might be more strenuous. I'm just curious, what state do you think has the strictest building codes? I see people raising their hand. Yep. Yeah, a lot of New York. Well, we have a lot of things, but we don't have the strictest code. The strictest code is actually Florida, state of Florida. They don't have snow, but they do have a preponderance of hurricane. And that's where the strictest code comes from, generally in figuring out hurricane, roof load, and then wind shear for windows. When you're doing homework, you're going to understand, is this public or private service? Or is it a combination? So on the municipal side, is it public water? Do they have sewage to this property? If they have public water, they typically have public sewage. Is there gas service that comes through the municipality? Or do I have to get my own? Is there public electricity supplied? How about stormwater collection, telephone, cable? So some are pretty obvious because you're in, you know, a more dense area where there are a lot of homes. But as you get out into the countryside, you know, some of these things are lacking. And you're going to have your own on the right side, well. You know, how many gallons a minute does the well produce? Is it drinkable? Is there a septic field? Does it have below ground gas tanks? Does it have solar, water power, et cetera? There's a variety of questions that you need to find out. And a great place to find out is through that local building department. Now, this screen of information is really not something you want to ask on a county level. You know, county is great for talking about taxes and the tax bills and that kind of stuff. You want to start getting into the local level, either the village or the town, building department, assessor, tax collector. These are the people that know these properties intimately and have records that they can refer to give you some information about these properties. So that's a great place to go. In the back of our brochure, we always have a list of those resource phone numbers for you. If you're interested in schools, it's very easy. Just Google New York State Report Card or visit the NYSED, New York State Ed Department.gov website, and you can find the school's report card. It's a tremendous database of information on every public school throughout New York State, and it gives you data on, you know, not only gender and ethnicity, but graduation rates, school curriculum, all kinds of different things there. And that's a great place if that's information that you're looking for. So get your questions answered before bidding, right? Once you bid, that means you want to buy this property because you know what you're buying. We're going to say it at the auction. If you've done no homework, if you didn't think about anything other than, hey, let me log in and push the go button and bid on something, we're going to ask you to probably just sit that one out. Just watch this year. We really want to sell property to informed buyers who are comfortable not only with the process, that's why we're doing this type of webinar, but they're comfortable with what they learned about the property. You know, it's important that you become an educated buyer and that you know what it is you're buying. So let's get a little bit closer now to auctions. You're going to want to start counting your finances now. At the auction, and this auction is entirely online, it has to be online this year, there is a required down payment right at the auction. And normally if we're in person, we do accept cash or bank or teller checks. This year it's debit or credit card. And I'll talk more about this in a minute, but you're going to want to make sure your credit or debit card is good to go. You have a good credit line, you have a good debit balance, and it will actually process that day. So what you should do tonight even, you can start doing this, is call the usual 800 number on the card and get to talk to somebody and say, listen, in the future, give them the dates, I'm going to be buying real estate and I need to use my credit or debit card as a down payment. So I need to make sure that the bank puts like a marker in their computer system that when we enter your card information for a purchase, it works. It's really a pain in the neck for you, obviously, and us, but mainly for you because then you need to make phone calls and get the bank involved, and it's really a nightmare on auction day. So just let them know now that you plan to buy real estate. And if you don't buy real estate, it's no big deal. The day will go by, that trigger in your account expires, and nothing happens. After auction, you have 30 days or less to close. So typically you have 30 days or less. There are no contingencies whatsoever. There's no financing involved. There's no extra inspections. There's no excuses. There are no excuses available for not finishing to pay and closing and taking title. Once you're the high bidder, we expect that you're going to be the buyer. Credit and debit cards. We take Discover, Visa, MasterCard, right? Call them, let them know it's real estate, and tell them that you're going to probably put down X dollars on the credit card. Now, how do you estimate your down payment? Well, the wizards and geniuses in our office have come up with a down payment calculator. It's a wonderful device on our website. You can just select the county that you want to buy property, type in the dollar amount you think you're going to pay for the property, and then just click go, and I'll show you this in a minute in another slide, and just click calculate, and it tells you what you're going to need as a down payment. So you can even tell the bank in advance, based on what you think you may be paying for this property, what you will be expecting to use as a down payment that day. And they'll probably type that in the computer as well. They like a lot of detail. So what's your bidding strategy? Are you somebody that does a lot of thinking, plan moves? Do you throw darts at the wall like, hey, let's see what happens? Or are you a little more risky type of bidder, meaning that you're going to sit on your hands to the last second and maybe miss it because you're not bidding? Or do you try and understand everything and calculate a lot? Let me give you a word of advice that's probably you're not going to take, but I feel compelled to share it with you because people ask all the time, how do I become a successful bidder? Well, number one, you need to bid. You need to bid, and you need to be the first one bidding, and then bid often, and then you're probably going to buy it. And many people just sit on their hands and wait and wait and wait, and they're hoping the property goes lower and lower and lower until, okay, yes, let me steal it. We should probably call the sheriff to come and get you because it's so low. Let me give you an example. If I was selling a $100 bill right now, legal tender money, and I said, who'd give me $100 for it? Would you give me $100? How about $100? Most of you are probably sitting home scratching your head going, I'm not going to give you $100 for it. Would you give me $80? How about $80 on it? Would you get $80? Who'd give me $50? Some of you might be raising your hands to give me $50 for a $100 bill, but some of you may not. You're waiting for me to get down to 20 or 10. I mean, at $10 for a $100 bill, don't you think just about everybody's going to want it? And that's what we see at auction time and again. You know, good property that's going to fetch a good price. And people are just waiting and waiting and waiting. And then here's what happens. I'm going to share with you what happens, and then we're going to move on. Either you finally bid or somebody else finally bids, and there it gets going. Sometime that other buyer that starts the bidding, they weren't even interested. But at that low price, they're interested. And other people do the same thing. And now you're going to have to get in. And no matter when you get in, if you weren't first, you're paying more. And then you just have to keep paying more to outbid other people. Whereas if you get in at a reasonable amount, I'm not saying you're top dollar, but get in at a reasonable amount, you're going to automatically knock away most of those people who really didn't want it anyway. They're not going to pay attention, so you're not going to have to outbid them. And by starting with some reasonable strength, you're going to already show some of the other bidders that, hey, there's a real buyer here for that property. Strength wins at the auction. And you could even consider jumping the bid, typing in a bigger bid number, and that strategy works. We've seen that be very successful. Remember, bidding delays don't work. You know, if you think somehow you're going to control the price because you're not bidding quickly, you're wrong. That doesn't happen. If anything, sometimes you just aggravate the other buyer, and then they dig their heels in and they just say, guess what? You're not buying it. And that's how that goes. So bid often, but certainly jump into the process. Some properties may be sold what we call choice to the high bidder. So choice means that we have a lot of, quote, similar properties, right? These are all fruits. And if you're making a fruit salad, how many of them do you want? You may want 1, 2, or all 3. Let me give you an example of real estate. Choice to the high bidder is where the county says to us, listen, you have 2 pieces of property. They're very similar, right? Look at the lot sizes here, 100 by 99, 100 by 100. They're both vacant land. They're both next to each other. All the neighbors may be interested in one or both, right? Because of some reason, one might be more desirable over another for some person, or the reverse true for another. So rather than sell these maybe in the wrong sequence, when properties are very similar, the county says, listen, just put them up on the auction at the same time and let the highest bidder gain the privilege of choosing one at 1 times their bid or both at 2 times their bid. And that's how we do choice. There's more explanation on the website, and we'll explain this at the auction if we're going to have to do this. Sometimes the county says to us, do a combo. Combine property together so that we're selling however many pieces all together, one money. So if you look at the tax maps here, we have 3 parcels, right? We have 2 pretty large pieces of land sitting up on a hill. And then we have this strip that goes down to the road. When you look at the aerial photo, you realize that those 2 pieces in the land are just forestation. And that strip that goes down to the road really isn't anything yet. It's not really a driveway yet. So the county said, you know what, just put them all together and let the high bidder decide if they want to build a driveway, if they want to build just one, build on one property, if they want to sell another piece, let them decide that. That's how we do combo. So final thought about bidding, make sure you get in early, know where you want to go, and get there. And then you'll be like this young lady, and you will be what we call a happy bidder. Ah, look at that. That's a wonderful piece of property. But it has a problem. It may not have road frontage. So how do you get there? Well, helicopters work, parachute, or you swim really well. We do sell property that may not have road frontage. And you notice this phraseology in our catalog. And this is what this is about. Look on the left. Looks like a subdivision tax map, and I've highlighted a property for you. Looks like a subdivision with roads going every which way, and this is a corner lot. On the right side, here's a zoom in. Looks like it's on the corner of Ivy and Arbutus. Wonderful. Well, let's jump into satellite. This property is actually just woods. Those roads are woods. This is a subdivision that was never built. So this property may not have road frontage. Again, by looking at the tax map, if you really didn't do a lot of homework here, you're just like, hey, yeah, corner lots are more valuable than others. That looks good. Let me bid on it. But then when you go to see it someday, you may actually go find it. It might be out in the woods. So how do you get to your land? How do you get to land that may not have road frontage? Well, number one, you're going to want to check those deeds, right? Read the deed, take a good look, see if there's a mention of what we call a deeded right-of-way. Deeded right-of-way allows you to make access over somebody else's property so that you can get to yours, right? So a right-of-way may actually let you put in a driveway on somebody else's property so you can use it to get to yours. An easement, on the other hand, doesn't say you can make anything, but you can go over it. You can walk over it and you can drive over it. We see lots of easements when we talk about lake property and getting to the lake. So you ready to go? You ready to make a purchase? Let's get you set up. The registration process is 3 easy steps, right? And don't get tripped up. It's easy, but you do need to do all 3 steps. 1, you need to become a member of our site, right? So you're going to join either NYS Auctions or AARauctions on the website and get a member name and a password, right? A username and a password. You're going to use that then to help you actually register for the auction, right? You're going to register for the auction. There's an internet bidding packet that will be sent to you with a link that comes and says, okay, now open this up, complete these documents. There are samples on our website, the terms and conditions that you're going to sign electronically, the agency form that you'll sign electronically. I'll go through some of these forms in a minute, but you're going to do this registration entirely from home. You don't have to go anywhere. We've created a great system of e-registration, and then you'll be able to pay with a credit card. So you don't have to leave the house. You can actually register, bid, and buy, and close, and everything totally without having to deal with anybody. So one of the first things we'll need from you is proof positive identification, right? A driver's license is good, a passport is good. We do accept military or state IDs that are visual, right? They have a photo of you and they have a number on them, but most people are using driver's license or passport. Then you're going to go on and actually electronically acknowledge the New York State agency form on the left. You're going to get a copy electronically of the lead paint form. You'll also get a lead paint booklet, and you'll get a copy of the ag district form, the agricultural district. Let's look at the seller's agency. It's going to tell you on that form that we represent the seller exclusively. We always represent the seller. The seller on the lead paint form is going to tell you that they don't know anything about these properties regarding lead paint. So the lead paint form is for 1-to-family homes built before 1978. There's a federal requirement that every seller has to disclose what they know about that. Here, the county doesn't know anything. Why? They've done no testing, and no testing means there are no reports or records to share with you. The purchaser acknowledges that you got the booklet, and you're also going to waive a 10-day right of assessment as the purchase process. You can go and test for lead paint once it's yours, and once it's your property and it's recorded in the county record to you, it's your property, you've paid for it. Then if you want a lead paint test, that's fine, but you can't go back to the county and say, hey, I don't want it now. This is your property. Then you're going to acknowledge a signature on this form. Some properties may be in an agricultural district, and there are a number of things with ag property that you're going to want to be aware of. And some of that may actually be things like activity, like noise, like dust. Maybe the odor bothers you. Maybe the pesticide spray is a problem. You're going to want to look at ag property and acknowledge that you know whether you're buying it or not. There's a new fair housing notice that everybody is going to have to deal with this year and be notified, and you're going to acknowledge that you received the housing discrimination disclosure form. Everybody's going to sign that. If you're registering rather than as an individual, but as an LLC or an incorporated entity, you're going to have to prove that it actually exists. The easy way to do that is using the state filing receipt. I've made a copy for you here of one from New York State. This filing receipt has to show the name of the corporation, and it also talks when it exists, when it starts. So this is how your LLC is born, if you will. So where do you get this form? Well, if you had an attorney help you form your LLC, there is an LLC kit, and in that kit that he or she gave you is this form. So find your kit, open it up, and it's in there. You can scan it and then be able to submit it with your documentation. If you use something like LegalZoom or some other service that helped you create the LLC, you still got a kit in the mail, and that kit is going to have this form in there, right? There's an additional form in New York State that is going to require disclosure of who owns the LLC. And I'll show you that form in a minute. We'll also need a corporate resolution that authorizes the person to bid. Now, we have some of these forms right on our website, so you can just download the form and fill them in. It's pretty simple. This is a new LLC disclosure. It has to tell who owns the LLC. Now, if it's a single member LLC, you're 100%. It's pretty simple. But if you have partners, you have to list everyone, their street address, their actual taxpayer ID, meaning their social security number, and the form must total 100%. All LLCs or incorporated entities will end up with an EIN, the Employment Identification Number that was given by the IRS. So this is like the social security number you have as an individual. The EIN is a similar number for incorporated entities. If you're bidding on behalf of someone else, you're going to need a limited power of attorney form for New York State. We have a copy on our website. Thank you, Jenny. She posted one there for you to download. This will need to be notarized and dated, so you will have to leave the house to get this document executed properly. So going to the auction or buying real estate, you ever feel like this guy when you try and buy real estate? The great thing about auctions is that we have terms. Terms are the rules of the auction that makes all buyers equal. All the offers are equal. The only difference is, what is the dollar amount bid? So, Sullivan County created terms or rules for how they're going to go about selling property to you. You need to read the terms carefully and understand what they are and what they say, because you're going to sign them and say you agree to them. Again, the educated buyer is our best customer. Let's go through a few highlights. I'm not reading every one to you, but I do want to go through a few. All bidders have to provide ID. Sullivan County says that they've gotten these properties through Article 11. We already mentioned village and town water sewer district rents. We will have posted on our website the appropriate prorated share of taxes that you will be responsible for. So rather than try and explain that to you here, check back on our website. Once we verify the information from the county, we'll post that document, and you could look at the property number you're looking at and what are the prorated taxes share that you're going to have to pay at closing. Again, November 20th is the final closing date. Final closing date, November 20, 2020. Not only will you finish paying for the property, but you will pay that pro rata share of taxes. All taxes or penalties or interest charged against the property subsequent to the auction, meaning after the auction, once you take title, Yeah, that's your responsibility. You're going to pay tax on this property going forward. Number 7, everybody should personally inspect title. We've talked about that before, doing your title search. And no personal property is included. These are real estate auctions. We're selling you real estate. If there's anything left about inside these properties that are considered personal property, you may want to seek then the advice of an attorney how to get rid of that merchandise. You know, garbage is garbage, but other things are personal effects. You may want to give those delinquent owners an opportunity to come and get their personal things. That's something you should probably talk about with your attorney. Again, personally inspect the property. We talked about number 11 a little bit, LLCs and power of attorney. I don't need to repeat that here. Deposits need to be paid in full for the successful bids once you're the high bidder. So once you're the high bidder at the auction, we will then run the credit card for the appropriate down payment. So you need to make sure your card works and that it's good for the amount of money that you're going to be charging. You need to pay for all the properties that you bid on. Number 14, there's no selective closing. You can't say, well, let me bid on 5 of these and then, you know, maybe I'll actually buy 2 of them later and pay for them. It doesn't work like that. You need to buy whatever you bid on and you're the high bidder. That's what you will close and pay for. And if you don't, the county has remedies to pursue you for any deficiencies in a resale. County can reject the bid for any reason prior to the closing of title. Now, that doesn't mean that they have minimums, okay? This says they reserve the right. It doesn't say they have a reserve dollar amount. They reserve the right to accept or reject bids, and they can reject bids for any reason. So what's the number one reason why a county would reject your bid? Simply stated, it's because when they looked at the list of buyers and they compare it with people who currently owe taxes, your name's on that list. So why would they want to sell you more property if you are already a delinquent taxpayer? That's typically where this clause number 18 is invoked. Number 19, there is a buyer's premium or a buyer paid commission of 11% added to the purchase price. So that's going to be disclosed to you. There's also an advertising fee, and there will be other fees that the county collects on behalf of the locality and also on behalf of New York State. Go through the terms and conditions and be comfortable with what you're reading. Understand what you're reading. 21 talks about the down payment required. It's either $1,000 or 20%, whatever's greater. I'll go through this math with you again in a little bit, but keep in mind, the bid amount plus the commission is the contract. That's the contract amount. So which is ever more, $1,000 or 20% of that contract amount, that's what you're going to put down on the day of the auction. Again, our calculator has already built this in, so you can simply go in and do the calculations and you'll understand what it is. We already talked about accepting and rejecting bids. 23, the balance, including the buyer's premium, is due November 20. So when you leave, when you finish the auction and paperwork goes up and back with you, start getting your final payment together on or before the close of business of November 20, 2020. You don't want to forfeit any monies that you may have paid. And in 23, time is of the essence. That's a legal phrase that means the clock is ticking. Getting to November 20, you need to finish paying. Again, no selective closings. Whatever you bid on, if you're the high bidder, you're going to close. If there's a court order or judgment to cancel the auction, any monies collected will be refunded with interest by Sullivan County. Sullivan County takes and keeps all the money. We have no money after the auction. So any refunding or any return of funds will be done through Sullivan County Treasurer's Department. Once the sale has been closed and the deeds are recorded, that's it. There's no recourse for the former delinquent or the lien holders to come after you for any past liens. So this is a very powerful law. It works very well. We've sold a lot of property this way. And you're going to get a simple quick claim deed in number 30. It's pretty simple. Title in New York State, according to the law, says it is yours upon recording of the deed. So even on auction day, if you paid in full and there's nothing else to do, just wait for a deed in the mail. It's still not yours until they approve the bid and they record the deed. So don't do anything on the property. Don't trespass. Don't start improving it. Don't collect rent. Don't do anything until the deed has been recorded. And the county will send you a copy of the deed in the mail. Evictions. This year is a little bit different. First of all, evictions have been and will remain the responsibility of the buyer. So if there are any evictions necessary, that will be your process to do once you're the titled owner. But understand, this year, because of COVID, there may be New York State law or executive order or governor or administrative order in New York State that may not allow you to evict until a certain time. Please be aware of what the law is saying, and you're going to have to comply with the law. It's pretty simple. For properties owned by a village, we do have some village properties here that Sullivan County has agreed to put in the auction on behalf of the village. Just understand that all the terms and conditions apply. However, you will need to pay village tax, maybe that's outstanding, certainly water or sewer district, etc. Again, the IRS has that 180 days after the auction. We already covered that. So just be aware if you come up with an IRS lien that you need to follow. Once you are registered on our auction and you've been approved, you've received notice that you're good to go, you're good to bid, the bidding applet looks pretty similar to this. It'll only show 3 properties, not 5 or 6. It'll show 3 at a time. And it'll show you which property is being sold at auction. It also shows you the upcoming parcels so that you're able to actually click on some of the links and refresh your memory what those properties may be. So this is going to be a live bid called auction. So you won't see us. We're not using Zoom. We're going to use the typical internet platform that we always do at the auction. You'll hear the auctioneer bid calling, but you're not going to see the auctioneer. So no one's in attendance. The auctioneer is going to bid call based on what he or she is seeing on the screen. But we're able to add some information possibly on each property as we move along. Once you're done bidding, you'll make a down payment. You'll sign a sample contract to sale. The high bidder has to be ready with Visa, MasterCard, or Discover. And again, call them right after the webinar. Here's that calculator I was talking about, down payment calculator. This is great. Just click on the county, put in the bid amount, click calculate, and it tells you credit card down payment. There it is. It's very simple. So to bid $50,000, your card needs to process $11,100, right? And that's something that, you only know the bid amount. We don't know what you're bidding, you know. And, put in your maximum amount, maybe go back and do it a couple of times. And then that's what you can tell your bank, that I need this amount, be ready to go. What if you're only buying a small value property? Let's say you bid $200. And, I have Otsego County here, but it applies here in Sullivan County. For $200, the minimum still applies, 1,000 or 20%, whichever is greater. So the down payment, if you bid $200, your down payment may be required up to $1,000, somewhere in there. So you're going to probably end up paying for this property in full. You'll pay the bid amount, the buyer's premium. You'll probably pay the recording fees and transfer fees for New York State and the county. And you may actually end up just paying in full. And that may be, $888.20. I'm just making up numbers. What I'm saying to you is, even if you buy a very inexpensive property, it is expected in the terms and condition that the credit card can be and will be good up to $1,000. So again, be prepared. One-page contract to sale and receipt. There's a sample in the booklet on our website. You could look at this. It'll itemize what happened, give you a total recap, talk about the last day of closing, and also give you a reiteration of the time is of the essence. There are some New York State forms that we're going to use: transfer tax report, transfer report, These become part of New York State record of the sales transactions. And eventually the quitclaim deed will be sent to you by mail. Quitclaim deed is the simplest form of title transfer, and it will record your ownership. And here's a sample deed. Typically it's 1 page. Sullivan County adds some extra information into the deed, but nonetheless, there it is. You may also want to follow any additional steps recommended by your attorney or tax professional, and we suggest that you do that. So let's sell a property to you now, just so you have a rough idea of what the auctioneer sounds like, and just about how long it takes. So I have a couple of family members here that are going to bid for me, and they're going to raise their cards, and we'll actually go ahead and start selling property. So let's move ahead. Once you're the high bidder, remember, you're going to make a down payment. If you don't have money, please don't bid. It's pretty simple. Let's go to the first property today, lot 307. This is at 10 Gold Point Road in the town of Thompson. And this here is waterfront on Wanasink Lake. It's a seasonal residence. Number one property we always get a question about. Do you have a cabin on the lake? We sure do. It's an older style home built around 1951, 864 square feet or so. It's on just shy of a 1/4 acre. This property had a lot of great interest. We did get to show this property. I think it was in last year's auction, and we had people get to go inside and take a look around. But we take photos. We'll let you look all the way around the property. It certainly could use a little paint, probably some TLC. Maybe you'd like to just leave it the way it is and enjoy this older style cabin on the lake. Maybe you want to do something different. Maybe take it away and put something new there. Has that nice picture perfect grandma kitchen. I took a picture right through the window. You can see me in the reflection of the microwave, and the cozy living room and all, and the requisite mother-in-law cabin. Has no electricity, air conditioning, or bathroom. She will not stay long. Hey, what do you want to give on them here? And you can enjoy this view. Would you give me a couple of $100,000 for it? How about a 200? Would you give me 200,000? How about $100,000 and enjoy this view every day of the year? How about 100? How about 100,000? Would you give me 50,000? How about a 50,000? Thank you. Now 60. 50 to bid and $60,000 on them. 50 to bid and 60. But you get 60. But you get 70,000. 70,000's over here. But you go 70 now. 80. $80,000. 80 now. 90. But you get 90. 100,000. I like that better. Now 125. How about 100 to bid with 125 and 125? Now 150. And 150, 125, did a bit of 150, 135. I'll work hard. 145 and 145, but you go 155. 155, I think you should, but you go 155. You owned it for a minute. 155, 155, and now 165, 160. Now 165. Can you go to 165? 165. 160's bid and 165, and straight away you are out. 160, you're all out in the middle. 165. Now 170. Can you do 170? $170,000 on them. How about a 165? Did a bit of a 170? 175. But you go 175. 175. Would you do 175? 171. One. Now two. 172. 173,000. How about a 173? 173. Own a cabin on the lake. 173 and 4 and 174. 174. Thank you. Now 175. 175. Show them who's boss. 175. And you go 176. And you're out again with a 176. And you're all out back there. 175. Did a bit of a 176. There it goes, $175,000. Buyer number 28, buyer number 28. And my backup bidder here is number 16. That property did go down the road at $175,000, and it sold with the buyer's premium, and it closed. Again, the auction is going to be on Tuesday, October 21, and Wednesday, October 22, beginning at 9:30 in the morning. And Jen in the background, me up front, talking to you today about the presentation and how the auction works and what you need to do. I know a lot of you are doing chat with questions with Jenny. Let me ask Jen if she can turn her mic on and let me know if there's something that I should talk about.
Hey, Frank, we actually got quite a few IRS questions. Mostly, how do you find an IRS lien? Where do you look for them? Okay. Will they charge you for the money that's owed on the lien?
Okay. So, and generally speaking, when I go back and talk to you about how to do your lien searches, right? You have the lien and judgment books. Also, now that you're going to be doing this online, right? Most of you are not going to go into the county records. In the county records, there's a filing cabinet of IRS liens, and you can go look through that cabinet, and there's an index book to help you do that search. But online, it's pretty simple. You're just going to click IRS, and you're going to look for the IRS lien. So by doing it online, it's actually a lot easier to discover the IRS liens. Again, filed by delinquent taxpayer's last name, first name. Just a word of advice, maybe you want to use, you may find on one lien that they use the middle initial. You may see it on the deed that it's a full name as a middle name. So you may, be careful of like junior and stuff like that. And you want to make sure you're looking for all of the delinquent taxpayers. So if the deed says there is a husband and wife, you're going to want to search husband and search wife. One or both may have liens against them. If the lien holders were notified, according to Article 11, right, and generally all lien holders, including the IRS, are notified, the liens are not your problem. You are correct that if the county did not notice somebody, if the lien was not notified, then that lien may still be in effect and it may become your problem. So that's why we suggest you do some homework. I hope I covered that for you well. Anything else, Jenny?
Yes. What is the difference between agricultural land and vacant land?
Okay, great question. Ag property, agricultural property, or just regular vacant land. So the way we talked about zoning at one point, right, where the municipality, a township, may take parts of their town and make them commercial or residential or whatever. They may also have an area called agricultural. Typically on a tax map, that property is identified as agricultural property. You may actually see an entire section marked off. Everything in that section is agricultural property. A couple of things about that. One, generally there are some tax benefits through lower taxation that apply to agricultural property. There may be. There also is that 3-year delinquency period, so that may apply. If you're unsure when you're talking with the township, right? I don't really know about vacant agricultural property in villages, but I'd ask the question anyway. But in the township, you're going to ask them in the building department or the assessor, right, or the tax collector, hey, by the way, is this property in an agricultural district? It may benefit you if you're looking to do certain things with it. It may not be of interest with you. So it's a great question, but that's how you figure it out.
Hey, Frank, I'm getting a lot of questions about how the bidding process works, and I'd highly recommend everyone check out the resource center that's on the website. I did send everyone that link as well. But if you didn't see the link, you go on to nysauctions.com, and on the top, there's a buying tab. Under the buying tab, go to tax auctions and then resource center. There's actually a demo on how the applet looks when you go to place your bids for the live auction for Sullivan County.
Yeah, I have to reinforce it. The resource center that we have has great information for you. Not only videos, like Jenny just said, a sample way to just kind of watch the whole thing unfold in real time in front of you. But there's also a ton of real great questions and answers, right? FAQs, frequently asked questions. Read through those and you're going to become much more comfortable with the process. Here's just another thing for you too. Unless you are the first person buying lot number 1, if you're buying lot 31 or 331, you're going to get a real good sense of how things are working just by watching. So you'll get an idea of the cadence of the auctioneer. You'll get an idea of the quickness of how things move along, and you'll see how the bidding process works. But again, Jenny's exactly right. Our website has a ton of great information for you.
Yes, absolutely. And another really hot question tonight is what costs and fees are going to be included in your closing costs. You really need to read the terms and conditions of the auction. It explains any fees, any current taxes. Again, you're not paying back taxes on these properties, which is another pretty popular question. You don't pay the back taxes, but you will be responsible for current taxes, and that is clearly outlined in the terms and conditions of the auction.
So that paragraph 21 in the terms, right? I'm just looking at the booklet myself, and we highlighted it a little bit here. But paragraph 21 in the terms talks about all the fees involved in recording of the deed and transfer report, etc. You can also look, I think it was in here a little bit earlier on, number three in the standard terms talked about those school tax or village tax. The easy way to do that is just wait to see what we have posted on our website. We're going to have probably a PDF for you to look at, that you could just look at your property number, here are the tax amounts, and then what we suggest you do is, even though we have the information from the county and it's on our website, call the county and verify those numbers, or call the school district, verify the number, make sure that the number that was typed in from the county side that came through is accurate. So, always trust and verify and trust, make sure that it's accurate. Jen, I'm just going to guess that probably by Monday or thereabouts, we may have that tax list on our website.
I plan on having it posted tomorrow. I know that it was imported, but I guess they just forgot to upload it. But it will be on there tomorrow one way or another.
Okay, there you go. So certainly over the weekend, you'll be able to start doing more homework that way for you. What else do you see?
I have a lot of questions that people are pushing in there, and I don't know if they joined us late or they just didn't hear it during your presentation. But a lot of these questions were definitely answered during the seminar. Also, some of them, I'm not sure what the topic was when they're asking the questions, so I really can't answer them. Like, I've been asked about where links are, so if anybody wants to clarify the question, they can send an email to info, I-N-F-O, at AARauctions.com. You can also find the things that Frank mentioned either in the auction itself or in the resource center. Everything that Frank mentioned is on the website, and it is pretty easy to find. But if you really have exhausted all options and you can't find it, definitely send us an email to info@AARauctions.com. Definitely read the terms and conditions, because quite a few of your questions are answered in those terms, and I'm not going to answer them for you. I have been responding back to you saying that you have to read the terms, because it is your responsibility to do due diligence on what you're responsible to pay for and how the closing process works. Frank, a question I have gotten is about title insurance. Is it typical to purchase title insurance on these properties?
That's something that you're going to want to talk to probably more than one title company about. We have conflicting information from different buyers around the state. Some say they are getting title insurance, others say they aren't. We're not buying title insurance ourselves, so I don't have the direct experience. I will share this. The title companies that are used to the plain vanilla real estate transactions are likely not writing title insurance. There are hundreds of title companies throughout New York that are allowed to do business in New York, and you're going to have to do some homework to find title insurance. So if you're inquiring, maybe through an abstract company or through a title company that you're talking to, make sure that you tell them you're buying Article 11 property tax foreclosure, and let them know it's Sullivan County. That may influence their decision. But you're going to have to do the homework on that. I'm sorry, I don't have a better referral. Yeah, we have plenty of video on our website that you're going to be able to take advantage of and help learn, again, more information on how to do this type of auction.
Frank, do we know when the approval is on these properties after the auction?
I don't, and you know what? I spoke with the treasurer this morning and I forgot to ask that. It will be part of the public announcement that we do on the auction day. The approval process is after the auction is completed. So after both days are completed, we give the county treasurer a report. And then that report goes back with them into their meetings. Keep in mind, they're going to review that list of buyers to look for delinquent buyers, if you will. But then there is a meeting where there is a resolution passed that actually will allow us to begin printing deeds, and then we FedEx the deeds over to the county. Generally speaking, there is a date that I can announce, but I don't have it in front of me. We will have it, and we will announce it each morning of the auction. It's a fairly quick process.
Yes, the closing is definitely much easier than in a standard real estate transaction for these properties. So immediately after auction, and I did get these questions, there is no changing the name on the paperwork. As soon as the properties sell, we're charging your credit cards, finalizing your payment, and printing out all of the documents, which include the contract, the 5217 and the 584 documents. So that paperwork is all printed out immediately following the auction, which means that there's no time to change it and create a business or put it in someone else's name or add a person. However you register for the auction is how the paperwork and your deed will be completed.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Jen. You want to make sure that you're thinking about how do you want to take title. Here's a great example. We have people that usually show up when we were doing these in person. You know, a husband and wife sit down at the table and say, okay, are you both on the deed? We haven't thought about that. So if you're going to take title together or with a partner, or however you're going to do that, let's get that all squared away, right? You may need that power of attorney to bid on someone else's behalf. So make sure you get that squared away. But yes, the way you're registering, once all that information goes into the computer system, that's how it finishes out. That's how the deeds are printed, how the contract is printed, the New York State forms. The reason why we automated all of this is so that it's a much, much faster process to allow you to get the closing and allow you to get your property. So I just quickly went on to the resource section of our website. Again, you know, there's a how to bid, there's how to do research, there's great information, there are forms, there's attorney, full power of attorney, corporate resolution. There's a lot of great information there for you if you just visit our site. And we're a couple of weeks ahead of the auction, so you have plenty of time to start doing that work and really getting yourself educated.
Yes, and Frank, did you cover what happens if the high bidder's payment doesn't go through?
I didn't. You want to address it, Jen? I'll let you talk about that.
Certainly. So if
Thanks.
day of auction happens and we go to charge your credit card and it declines and we try to call you and we still can't get proper payment, we will immediately go to backup bidder and we will take their payment, which means that the high bidder then forfeits the property. So the backup bidder will be contacted. So on the day of auction, we're recording the high bidder and the backup bidder. And one way or another, we're going to make sure that we have payment on that property.
All right. Our objective is to have a buyer for every property at the auction by the end of this process. The county, number one reason what they want to do is get these properties back onto the tax roll with a new owner.
Hey, Frank, I think you covered it, but can someone go see these properties?
So you can do a drive-by. We're not able to do any in-person showings this year. So we were able to go back, our team went back 2 people, socially distanced, and we were able to access the improved unoccupied properties that the county allowed us to show. I think there were, I want to say 21 or so of them. So we did go back and do more interior photos, and we did do video. So you're able to go on our website and take a look at that. The interior photos will give you a lot better sense of what you're not going to determine outside. But for all of the properties in the auction, you certainly could do a drive-by viewing, visit the property, take a look. If you're going to talk to a neighbor about a property, either on the one side or the other or across the street, keep in mind that what you're hearing may be the truth and it may be partially the truth, meaning that they may be interested in buying it too also. So you want to, talk to a couple of different people about the property. Just don't take one person as gospel.
So everyone knows, for registration, for bidding purposes, we are not approving anybody to place bids until Monday, October 19th. You will receive emails letting you know that we've received your paperwork and that you are all set to bid, but you will not be turned live to place bids until Monday, October 19th. Once we put you as live and you can go on and place bids, you can go on and place absentee bids on Monday up until the point that we start the auction live for bidding. Once it's live for bidding, if you place an absentee bid, the clerk will carry out your absentee bid for you, or you can bid live in the auction and basically wait until the auctioneer opens it up and bid during the actual live portion of the auction.
Right. And that's, the great part about that system is, starting that Monday, is that you can actually go and test your own system at home. So, you could put in a fairly reasonable low bid just to make sure your buttons work, your connection works, and that you will be set to go. So we'd encourage you, to go in and do that starting Monday and Tuesday and get going. Tuesday at 9:30. Don't sleep late.
Definitely not. A few questions came in about the documents. So if you've already completed your documents, but you realize that something's wrong, you want to change the credit card, you want to add a person, you want to redo them, use the link that you originally received, go back in, redo the documents, and we're going to take your newest version of the documents to use in the auction. Once you send them in, we'll update your account. So if you do add, say, your husband or wife to it or a partner, we will be updating it to make sure that they're added to your registration in the system.
That's great.
Home market value versus auction reality.
Full market value versus auction reality. Well, there's a lot to talk about in there, and condition certainly has a lot to play. So in our experience, particularly on the properties that are not occupied, land is land. Maybe not much changes year to year, but homes that have not been occupied and maybe not occupied for a significant period of time may not have had the maintenance that was required, may not have had the maintenance even while somebody's living in there, if they're delinquent, if they're not paying tax, maybe not doing as much maintenance. So fair market value is a combination of obviously what it is and where it is, but also the actual condition. So the interior photos are meant to try and help you start gauging into, that work on the inside. Maybe the clean out that's necessary, or maybe some of the rehabilitation that's necessary. I know one house that we took photos of, the entire interior of the house has been gutted right to the studs, and all of that's removed. So, you're starting with a renovation that a lot of the hard work's been done for you. The occupied properties, those are a little bit harder to guess because, they're occupied. We didn't take interior photos. So there may be a bit of a value break for you based on the unknown. So, it's, again, look at sales transactions, but then you're also going to have to try and do, your best drive-by appraisal to get an idea of what your gut is telling you that it may look like or be like, and then bid accordingly.
Frank, what happens to a property if it doesn't sell at the auction?
They're pretty rare. We don't really have a lot of property that doesn't sell at the auction. We always look for a buyer. The county keeps the property. So that property may be available to us to do a second auction, although since we're already in October and this auction's typically in June, I doubt that's going to happen at the end of this year. More than likely, any leftover would just be kept for another auction. But, you know, I don't have the authority to say that definitively. It's up to the county to give us a list for the next auction, and they may appear there. If you're interested in buying it, though, you should bid on it at this time around. This way it can be yours. You know, Jen's looking through the Q&As. I want to thank all of you that did come in tonight and stay here with us throughout the end. I still see quite a few people are still logged in. We appreciate the time that you've taken tonight to visit with us and be here in this seminar webinar. It's a different format than obviously we're accustomed to doing with you. Normally we do it together in person, but we really tried to cover all the bases and give you as much information, be as transparent as we can. So we appreciate your time, and we know you're going to put effort into becoming a good buyer. Jen, you see anything else?
I had some questions about the commercial water and sewer, the sewage. I don't know if you want to explain that information and then re-explain where they find liens other than IRS liens.
So if you have questions about water and sewer, you probably want to talk to either the village or town directly about that. And they can let you know, number one, is there a bill outstanding that you're going to pay, water or sewer bill, right? But if you have questions actually as to the location of that piping and that kind of stuff, they're going to let you know. They know where that type of infrastructure is sited on the property. So, you know, that's where you go for that information. The second part of that question, can you refresh my memory where we were going?
Yeah, 1 second, it just moved the screen on me.
Oh, sorry about that.
No, it wasn't you. There's so many questions coming in.
See, I can't look at the Q&A from my end.
I will tell you that I've answered over 69 in the Q&A alone, and I have no idea how many in the chat.
Right, right.
Oh, it was just about where you find the liens other than the IRS liens.
Oh, where do you find them? So when you go onto the county website, the way you would go and look for deeds, you're going to have to create an account with the clerk, right? Username and password, and gain access to the clerk's records. Either, you know, every county's different. You can sometimes get access for a day or a week or whatever. Once you do that, once you're into the county clerk's office, you can do everything. You can look for deeds. You can look for liens. You know, it's pretty simple to use their system to start looking for liens and do lien searches. You know, we don't spend a lot of time, if any, you know, looking at that information. So we're not familiar with the actual look of it for Sullivan County. But, you know, it's a fairly simplistic, straightforward search process. You know, you're going to want to discover the former owner, the delinquent taxpayer's last name, comma, first name. That's really where you want to start. And you may do that through either the assessment form, you may do that through the deed. You're going to have to look for that information first, because that's how you find lien records against that individual and any property they own. Jenny, what's going to happen to this recording of this webinar?
Fantastic question. We are going to take this recording and we're going to post it inside the Sullivan County auction on our website. So I
Okay.
would highly recommend, to be totally honest, most of the questions that have been asked are repeats or were definitely covered during the seminar itself. So I highly recommend that we have you guys go through and rewatch it, read the terms and conditions, and check out the Resource Center. If those don't answer your questions, then certainly send us an email to info, I-N-F-O, at AARauctions.com, and we'll get the answers for you. But I will tell you that if you ask us a question that's answered in the terms and conditions or the Resource Center, we're definitely just going to send you back to those areas to get your answers, to get you the answers you're looking for. One question has been about evictions. The governor has extended the hold on evictions until January 1st. So you cannot do an eviction because of the state mandate until the soonest, January 1st, and that's only if he does not extend it again. So as of right now, you will not be able to do an eviction. There's no way to do it. You can contact your attorney all you want, but because of the state mandate, the hold on evictions by the state, you cannot evict before that date. And unfortunately, that date could change. They put that in place in the middle of March and have continued to extend it every couple of months as of right now. So there's still a chance that it'll be pushed off even more. If you're curious if a property is currently vacant or occupied, if you go into the website and you open up a property that you have interest in, you just scroll down a little bit and you check out, I believe it says inspection. If it says occupied, when we visited the property, we were pretty certain that it had somebody living in it. If it says drive-by only, then we're pretty sure that it was vacant, but anything could change at any point. So that was when we visited the property. When was that, Frank? At the beginning of August?
Thereabouts, yes.
Yeah, so that information is based off of the beginning of August. So if it says occupied, they could have moved out, they might not have moved out. So it's hard for us to really be certain because it's been a couple months since we've visited all of these properties. But again, you cannot do an eviction until the soonest, January 1st.
Yeah, given that you do have some time to do a drive-by, I highly recommend using that Google map pin that we talked about earlier, and get in the car this weekend or this week if you have time and drive by and start seeing and learning what you can.
Yeah, so there are 35 open questions, but the majority of them happen to be repeat questions or were definitely answered in the webinar. So I think we're going to stop here because we've already gone at an hour and 45 minutes.
Okay.
So if we did not answer your question, you did not find the answer in the terms and conditions, by watching the webinar again, or by using the Resource Center, please send us an email at info, I-N-F-O, at AARauctions.com.
That's great. Jenny, thanks for being on the other side. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for spending the time with us to learn and become a new buyer of real estate here in Sullivan County. Wish everyone good health and peace, and look forward to hearing you at the auction. Good luck.